Morning, boys and girls. We are doing math lesson 9.1, and here's your math message for today. It says, two children want to share a sandwich equally. Fold the paper square to show how to divide the sandwich into two equal shares and draw a line on the fold. So I'm going to want you to pause the video because Mom had asked Mom to set you up with a Post-it note, and I want you to divide that, pretend that is a sandwich, and divide it equally. So pause the video. All right, now that we're back, I'm going to take my Post-it notes and I'm going to find out how you divided your sandwich equally, okay? So did some of you divide your sandwich like that? And then you drew your line. There's my sandwich, and I drew my line. All right, is that the way you did yours? Okay, some of you didn't do it that way. That's okay, we're gonna do another one. Did some of you divide your sandwich this way? And you drew your line. Okay, can I divide my sandwich equally a different way? Well, some of you might say, well, my sandwich kind of looks like that, but my line is different. Well, that's because all it is that you have turned your sandwich on its side a different way. So these two are the same, but we are dividing into two equal shares. And so that was the important thing, was that we were going to make sure that we're sharing our sandwich equally. Did you notice a word that Miss Foster used when I said folding your paper? And I also said the word divide, okay? We are going to be talking about how to divide things equally. Another way that we've said that or practiced it is we've been talking about partition. Okay, so I need for you to go get some other pieces of paper to make squares, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with those squares. So Ms. Foster is going to show you what I did. I used some recycled paper, and if you have a cutter at home, if Mom has a cutter, she can cut the paper. And this is 8.5 by 11, so I'm going to make it square. So I'm going to cut the 11 off to make it 8.5. If you don't have a cutter, save these little strips. We're going to use those in another lesson. If you don't have a cutter like Miss Foster just had, you can take your paper, and again, you've done this at school when you've made some of these paper boxes that you guys like to do, to make it square. Again, I'm using recycled paper, that's why I got all this printed on here. You can put the point, put one corner over, and then make sure we get a complete point. Close to it is good. Okay, and then cut off your excess. That will make your paper to be square. Okay, later on, Miss Foster will do a video on making paper boxes, since we hadn't had a chance to do that as a class, and I know you guys like to be able to make your paper boxes. Before we begin, we need to know what our target is for today, and your target is I can partition, which we know that word means. It also means divide. Okay, I can divide circles, rectangles into 2, 3, and 4 equal parts. Okay, we know what shape circles are, and we know about rectangles. So we're going to divide those into 2, 3, and 4 equal parts right here, equal parts. All right, and after we do that, we're going to learn how to name and describe those. Okay, so naming them. If I have a circle and I want to share it equally with 2 people, I need to divide it. So now I have equal parts on either side. Is there another way that I could have drawn a line to divide it? Yeah, you're right. So if I were to take that circle and do it this way. Very good. There's lots of different ways that I could have drawn my line to divide my circle. I could have gone sideways on either side, but we are dividing it into 2, 3, or 4 equal parts. So these are 2 equal parts. Okay, so if my part is a whole, so this is how we're learning words. Okay, this is my whole circle. But if I just want this part, I'm going to say that it is 1/2. And some people might write it 1/2 or the little slanty line. Or you can say 1/2. Okay? So those are some ways that you could do that. Or you can say that this section right here is 1/2. You can say that. Or you can write it in words. 1/2. Okay? So these are ways that we're naming them, and by naming them, we're giving a description too based off the whole. Okay? So we will get busy with that. All right, so go get your squares and then come back to Miss Foster. All right, now that we're back, I want to take our paper squares that you have cut, and I want you to divide them into 2 equal parts, just like you did your sandwich. So there are my 2 equal parts, and you can see my fold, 1, 2. All right, now I want you to decide to fold it into 3 equal parts. So you can get a new square, and I'm going to fold it into 3 equal parts. All right, I'm going to pause the video, and I want you to do 3 equal parts. So 3 parts. Pause the video. All right, now that we're back and you have to do 3 equal parts, this one's kind of tricky because you want to make sure that all your sides are about the same because it has to be equal parts. So now, did you come up with that? Or did it look like that? Very good. So if I was talking about this one part that I'm shading, okay, we know that this is a whole square, okay? So my square is a whole. Ooh, ran out of room. But if I'm talking about just this shaded in portion, what would that be called? I have 3 parts, so what would that shaded in part be called? Good job. It would be 1 of 3 because it's 1 of 3 parts. It could be 1/3, or it could be in written words 1/3. Or it could be written third, just by itself. It's a third. Put A in front of it, a third. So this is where you have 3 parts. And if I was talking about, so now I'm going to add a new color. If I was talking about this section, along with this section, now I've colored 2 parts. So what would it be called? That's right, 2 of 3, 2 over 3, which is 2/3. Notice the S because it's more than 1. It's going to be with the plural, 2/3, and then it's going to be written out 2/3. That makes sense? All right, so that is you taking a paper square and making them 3 parts. All right, let's take another paper square, and now we want to do 4 equal shares. Okay, 4 equal shares. We'll pause the video. I want you to fold your paper into 4 equal shares. What did your paper square look like? If I was to say this was 4 equal squares, I could say there's 2, and I know 2. I can take that and I can fold it in half again, and I can fold it in half again and open it up. And now do I have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal shares? That's one way. What about if I wanted to fold it into smaller squares? Okay, there's that one. And there's that one. Is that 4 equal shares? Yes, it is. All right, and then what about if I decided to do it on a diagonal? Ooh, the paper's not cooperating. All right, that's in half. And then if I fold it again, another half. 2 plus 2 equals 4, so I'm going to get 4 equal shares. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so these are my 3 different ways to show 4 equal shares. And how would I write that? Because remember, we have to describe it and write it to be able to name the parts. So if I was going to look at just this one, what would that be called? Good job. It would be called 1 of 4, because it's 4 equal shares. I can write it 1 over 4. You know, Miss Foster likes to write a little slanties, 1/4. Or you can use your words, 1/4. What about another one? We've learned this with time, okay? So we have our clock at school. You remember our clock over our school? And then this is 12, this is 6, this is 3, this is 9. And our clock is divided into 4 parts at school as well. And this section between the 12 and the 3, we talked about that it is a quarter, because we'll say it's a quarter past the hour. So another term we can use is 1/4. Sort of like if you had a dollar bill, you know, if you have, here's my dollar bill, but how many quarters make a dollar? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's where the term 1/4 comes from, because it is 4 parts to make a whole. All right, so if looking at these other 2, let's say I shaded in this section and this section. Now I've shaded in 2 sections, but how many do I have total? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 2 of 4, and that is called 2, let's should use your words, 2/4. Okay, what if I did on this one, I colored in 1, 2, 3. Now how would I write that? As when I name that, I can name it as how many parts do I have? Draw my line, 4, and how many did I shade? 3, 3/4. So this little divider line is we're talking about. This tells me how many are total of my whole, how many makes my whole, so the number in my whole. And then when you're talking about what you're shading, this is what you're trying to identify, how many I can either say shaded or chosen or picked. Okay, so I'm going to put picked to fit it in here. Okay, So this was an example of showing you how to divide it equally into fourths and to name and describe it. Now I need you to go get your math journal and turn to math journal page. We're going to need page 220 to start off with. And they kind of go together. Miss Foster, has to tear hers out of the book so that I can share with you guys. So I need you to turn to math journal page 220 and 221. And when you get there, go ahead and put TKA at the top of the page. Did you put TKA at the top of both pages? Because we are going to be working with both of them. There's a total of 5 questions. Miss Foster is going to work with you with number 1. And then you are going to finish number 2, 3, 4, 5 on your own. 6 is a tricky one. It's to try this. So make sure that you really try it. And if you have to, get a circle. Find something at home that you can trace and make you a circle if you need to. But I really want you to work on that one as well. Right. Our directions say divide each rectangle into 2 equal parts. Show 2 different ways. So we've got to show different ways. Okay. So I want you to decide how you're going to divide your rectangle. Go ahead and do that now. Good job. All right. Did some of you divide your rectangle down the middle? Good job. And then a different way would be what? Good job. Now you have divided it 2 different ways. Okay. So now what I want you to do is I want you to tell me how many parts did you make on your rectangle? Either one. Good job. We now have 2 equal parts. All right. So I want to write a name for one part. So let's just shade this part in, or you shade in one of your parts. It doesn't matter which side. So now I want you to name your shaded part. What would that be? Good. You could have put 1/2. You could have said 1/2. You could have said half. You could have said 1 of 2 parts. But I know you guys, you probably did the shortcut and you did 1/2. Either way, that is absolutely fine. All right, and it says write a name for all the parts together. So both of these 2 parts together, what would you write as your answer? Good job. You could say 2/2. You could say 2/2, or you could say 2 of 2 parts. And I guarantee you guys, you wrote it 2/2. And that is fine. All right, so our goal for today is we can partition, and we're learning a new word, which is divide. I can divide circles and rectangles into 2, 3, and 4 equal parts, okay? And then we're going to name them. And these were the names that we came up with for this particular circle, which Miss Foster divided into 2 equal parts, okay? But you're going to be dividing the rest of today, you're going to be dividing into 3 and 4 parts as well on your page. And I want you to think about, whenever we did our shadings, okay? So this is 4 parts, this is 3 parts, and then the words that we used, okay? If you need to go back and look in the video to help you for some of those words, you can do that. But I want you to finish this page. Number 2, 3, 4, 5, and try this. Number 6 is a try this. And if you have to do some erasing, you do that. But think of this as the clock in Miss Foster's room, or think of this as a cookie or a piece of pie. And it says to divide the circle into 4 equal parts. And I think you can do it. All right, that is our lesson for today. So finish these pages. Have a good day.